happy morning. Thank you for being here. I am very touched to be a part of this announcement today. To introduce myself, my name is Didi Hirsch. I am 19 years old, a mental health and suicide prevention advocate. I've had the honor of being our 2022 Mental Health is Health Youth Ambassador with Didi Hirsch, and I'm also a 90-day crisis counselor and a member of our Speakers Bureau here at Didi Hirsch Suicide Prevention Center. My mental health journey in the advocacy space actually began at Teen Line as a hotline worker when I was 14 years old, which is why I'm honored to be, hello, that's flying, is why I'm honored to be witnessing the synthesis of two organizations with such deeply intertwined root values. It warms my heart and brings together a beautiful unity that our community really needs. So, it's just flying today, apparently. Continuing on, it is my honor to now introduce our CEO, Lynn Morris. I met Lynn this past month at an event for Didi Hirsch and was truly touched by her heart for this work. She is a highly accomplished executive leader and licensed therapist with 20 plus years of experience and is dedicated to serving communities where poverty or stigma limits access to care. Lynn joined the agency in 2000 as a program director for adult outpatient services and has served in several capacities throughout the agency, including division director of the Suicide Prevention Center, senior vice president of clinical operations, and was recently chosen to be the chief operations officer before being the CEO, overseeing all the agency's operational, clinical, and administrative functions. As of June 1st, Lynn became Didi Hirsch's CEO. Her passion and dedication to suicide prevention comes from personal experience. Lynn Morris is a survivor of suicide, having lost a cousin in 1999, a close friend in 2004. Thank you, Lynn, for your work and for your heart. I'm excited to introduce you and to be alongside everyone here.
All right, thank you, Adia, for the warm welcome. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our beautiful Didi Hirsch Suicide Prevention Center today. We appreciate you taking the time to be here today and hear some exciting news that we're going to share. So Didi Hirsch is very excited and very proud to announce that Didi Hirsch is acquiring the Teen Line. Teen Line is a leading global teen-to-teen support line with youth-centered services. And Didi Hirsch is the largest and most comprehensive suicide prevention center in the nation. So this historic moment of combining our agencies together makes perfect sense. We've been working collaboratively with Teen Line for almost 20 years, and we witnessed up close the deep impact they have with their effective counseling methods in their community. Didi Hirsch's acquisition of Teen Line could not be more timely. The pandemic has exacerbated the mental health crisis. We know that, and in particular for youth. And especially in BIPOC communities where vulnerable people are lacking access to good mental health care. So through this acquisition, Didi Hirsch will also honor Teen Line's founder, Dr. Elaine Leader, and her success of Teen Line that they've achieved over 40 years. The Didi Hirsch Suicide Prevention Center serves over 137,000 people a year who are in crisis through our calls, chats, and our text. Almost half of those are from young people under age 25. In the last 5 years, Teen Line has also experienced a tremendous increase in demand for their services, with the number of teens reaching out for help nearly tripling. So like Didi Hirsch, Teen Line takes calls from across the country. Approximately 2/3 of their calls are ages 14 through 17. And more than 20% are children 13 and younger. And nationwide, 60% of teens and young people with depression cannot access care. So more reason why it's so important we are coming together to serve teens during this time. It's heartbreaking, and we must do better to serve young people and support them. They're growing up in times that are unprecedented, times that we didn't have to experience with mass shootings, with the pandemic, with social bullying, and many other things. We know that our relationship with Teen Line will aid in making the younger generation feel heard, but more importantly, understood, and to feel less alone. So together, Didi Hirsch and Teen Line will advocate for this next generation and make their mental health a priority. Through this acquisition and other youth-focused initiatives, we will be able to make the mental health space one where youth are comfortable and one where our next generation sees a better future for themselves and their peers. Didi Hirsch also strives to engage our youth through social media outreach. So our Didi Hirsch is Health Youth Ambassador, Adia, who you just met, and Sarah Gilman, who's here in our audience today, from our Next Gen board, have hosted live events on our Instagram account, helping us to make that connection with our younger generations. It's more important than ever that we stand up for the voices that cannot always express themselves fully and create a safe place for our teens. I'm proud to share that this official acquisition will be finalized by the end of this month and that there will be no disruption in Teen Line services or training programs. I also want to personally thank Cheryl Eskin, Chief Operating Officer of Teen Line, Jonathan Schreiber, VP of Community Engagement at Cedar Sinai, Andy Reamer, former chair of Teen Line, now current board member of Didi Hirsch, and Mike Werwell, our Didi Hirsch board chair, as well as our other Didi Hirsch board members. We couldn't do this though without the staff and volunteers at our Suicide Prevention Center and at Teen Line. So a huge thank you to all of you as well. And now it's with great pleasure that I get to introduce Mike Werwell, who is Didi Hirsch's board chair. For more than 20 years, Mike has, probably more than 30 years actually now, Mike has experience serving the mental health needs of people in communities where poverty or stigma limits access. For over 40 years, Mike has held several positions with some of the biggest financial firms like Standard & Poor's, Corporate Value Consulting, Duff & Phelps, and PricewaterhouseCoopers. He's a member of our board of directors. He was a member of the board of directors for the Family Services of Los Angeles when the agency merged with Didi Hirsch in '97, and thankfully he's been here ever since. So please give a warm welcome to Mike Werwell, our Didi Hirsch's board of directors chair.
Thank you, Lynn. Also want to recognize a couple other people in attendance who are really important to the cause. John Conyard, one of the members of our Next Gen board, running for Congress in the state of Michigan. John, we wish you good luck and congratulations in advance. We know you're going to bring home the prize. Also, Arturo Tabango with LA City Fire. Arturo, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. So on behalf of the Didi Hirsch board, we are so excited about the combination of Didi Hirsch with Teen Line. This represents something that we've been dreaming about for years and is the culmination of a lot of efforts that have gone into and a lot of good, heartfelt discussions that we've had over the last several months that is bringing this to fruition. It's going to be exciting and just a wonderful thing for us to be able to do for the community. Mental health challenges, unfortunately, among our youth are at a crisis levels. Every day in our nation, there are an average of over 5,400 suicide attempts, most of them by young people in grades 7 to 12. This transaction with Teen Line and Didi Hirsch will bring together two leading mental health organizations and enable us to expand our support and services to vulnerable youth in need. It is very timely, as Lynn has mentioned. We'll combine our mental health crisis care capabilities with Teen Line's successful track record of youth support services. We'll hear more about those, I think, in some of the coming presentations, particularly from Cheryl as you talk about it. But more importantly, Didi Hirsch's really cultural and heartfelt background is to support and envision a future where everyone can thrive with access to high quality care that treats mental and physical health as one. Our collaboration with Teen Line in the next phase of this partnership will further and enhance that goal. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Teen Line's Chief Operating Officer, Cheryl Eskin. Just a second, I gotta introduce you first. I I know you're anxious. Cheryl started her mental health career at the age of 14 as a Teen Line listener. So she lives and breathes this and has done so for a long time. She's been a licensed marriage family therapist for over 20 years. She's worked with adolescents in a variety of settings, including non-public school, private practice, and community mental health. She's also co-chair of the Los Angeles Suicide Prevention Network. Cheryl is passionate about decreasing the stigma around mental health and depression and educating parents how to best help their teens. In fact, she developed an iPhone app. I'm gonna have to download this. The app is called Teen Talk Helping Teens and addresses the need for more support for teens who are struggling. Cheryl regularly speaks with parents and educators on improving communications with their teens, as well as mental health warning signs. This is probably one of the most important things, really recognizing those warning signs and doing something about them before it's too late. So please welcome Cheryl Eskin.
Thank you so much, Mike, for that introduction and the calm energy and wise guidance you've brought to this entire acquisition process. Teen Line started in 1980 based on the premise that when teens are struggling, they're much more likely to turn to their peers than they are to the adults in their lives. Our co-founders, Dr. Elaine Leader and Dr. Terry Lipton, had a vision of a peer-to-peer line and associated educational services where teens could de-escalate problems before they became a crisis. Their vision still guides us today. We started in 1980 as a pure phone line in an era of payphones and collect calls. We've evolved with technology to include text, email, message boards, social media, and a large internet process, all while maintaining our phone line. Our area code may have changed, but our phone number has stayed consistent for the past 40 years. 310-855-HOPE or 800-TLC-TEEN. We originally started as Teen Line Cares. What has held true for the past 40 years is the power of teens helping teens. And each year we train 60 to 80 Los Angeles-based teens to be listeners for their peers on the hotline. You'll hear from two of our fabulous teens a little later, and you've already heard from Adia, who if we, had to have a Teen Line spokesperson, Adia is awesome for that. Our teens go through an intense screening and interview process, 65 hours of mandatory training, and then a good 6 months to a year of observing on our hotline before they take a text or call. So I put them up against some of the best of us licensed mental health professionals. Plus, they have the knowledge of what it's like to be a teen in high school. And as Lynn mentioned, living through a pandemic, social media, school shootings, things we fortunately didn't have to deal with. In the past year alone, it's no surprise that our teen listeners, including these two here today, have de-escalated close to 1,000 suicidal teens, as well as supported countless other teens dealing with issues such as depression, loneliness, child abuse, anxiety, and family problems. As Mike mentioned, I started my Teen Line journey in 1989, so now I'm dating myself, but as a 14-year-old freshman in the spring training group. The training I received, the experiences I had, and the outreach opportunities I participated in definitely shaped my life trajectory, leading me to where I am today, a licensed marriage and family therapist, I think it's 20 years in September, and director of this amazing organization I love so much. To date, we've trained close to 2,500 high school students to be listeners on our hotline, learning how to actively listen, how to help people in crisis, be mental health ambassadors, and change makers in their community. Anecdotally, and hopefully with Didi Hirsch's help, we'll do more of this research, there's a lot of our teens like me who've gone into mental health fields or medical fields. We even hear from those teens who've gone into business or other fields that their peers are amazed by what good listeners they are, because that's a skill we really hone at Teen Line. For the past 20 years, since our beginning, Cedars-Sinai has supported us, providing us space, utilities, IT support, and countless other things as a small nonprofit we never could have survived without. We're honored to have Jonathan Schreiber, VP of Community Engagement, here with us today, and we're thrilled that we'll continue our partnership with Cedars. As Lynn mentioned, for at least the past 20 years, we've worked with and admired Didi Hirsch. We can't thank them enough for taking our after-hours calls for so many years so that teens can be helped 24/7 on our hotline. It's an honor to join an organization such as Didi Hirsch, whose mission, leadership, and ethos so closely matches our own. I want to say what a wonderful experience it's been to work with all. Lynn named us all, but I think we've all been an amazing team these years. So huge thanks to Lynn Morris, to Mike, to Andy, to Jonathan, everyone, the staff at Didi Hirsch, who is wonderful to see here today. On behalf of myself, our 150 teens, our staff, I just want to say how excited we are to become a part of Didi Hirsch. Together, we're going to work together to improve youth mental health and decrease the stigma. As Helen Keller said, together we can do so much. And now it is my honor to introduce our board chair, Andy Reamer, without whom today would not be possible. Well, not yet, see? He did the same thing. Yes. He and I, you can tell, really like introductions and people talking about us. While maintaining his full-time job and hopefully a bit of a social life, he has worked tirelessly for the future of Teen Line. I cannot thank him enough for his passion, vision, and dedication. We're thrilled that Andy will be continuing on the Didi Hirsch board and leading the Youth Advisory Committee. And now I won't embarrass him further with his bio. I will just call up the amazing Andy Reamer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. I really appreciate it. Hi, everybody. My name is Andy U. Reamer, and my pronouns today are he, him, his. I'm the chair of Teen Line's board and will be on Didi Hirsch's board leading the youth subcommittee, as Cheryl said. In my day job, I'm a principal at Sideport, which is a consulting firm working with organizations around the world who are doing hard things in service to the planet and people. I want to start off by thanking so many people, but first the Teen Line board and staff, present and past, who provided us with unrelenting passion to achieve this day with Didi Hirsch. We are coming off one of our most successful years financially and impactfully, and we could not be more excited for the amplification, growth, and impact that we will continue to do through Didi Hirsch. Specifically, I want to thank our key staff members, Cheryl Eskin, Shaman Balasuria, Charlotte Medella, and Jenny Pascal. Additionally, our board members who unanimously, but I can continue speaking if you can hear me. Our board members who unanimously and compassionately stepped up during these critical times: Robin Cruz, Dr. Sarah Kate McGowan, Sherry Zigman, Dr. Julio Hernandez, Dr. Susan Boren, Bella McGowan, as well as Jenny Eidinger and Peter Meza, who will join me on the Didi Hirsch board. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you also to our consultants at Mockingbird, Liz, Rachel, Lorenza, and Jessica for supporting us before and during this merger. Thank you to our legal team over at Shepherd Mullen, especially Jay, David, and Cynthia. As a quick side story, David was actually on the first ever Teen Line cohort as a high schooler. He even received the first ever active suicide call, and now he is a partner at Shepherd Mullen, talking about the amazing alumni that we have all around the world, doing amazing things in and outside of the mental health space. I especially want to thank Dr. Elaine Leader, whose vision 42 years ago created this wonderful organization. She witnessed in her work as a social worker and as a therapist that there is real power in peer-to-peer and teen-to-teen support. Many don't realize the vast impact that she had had, but just two quick examples to show. One, in the early years, Dr. Leader created the first ever LGBTQ outreach program for LAUSD high schoolers. And on another occasion, she was personally thanked by Rosa Parks for the work Teen Line was doing across Los Angeles. Her ingenuity and thoughtfulness continues to be the inspiration for Teen Line today and will continue as the core of our ethos within Didi Hirsch. I also want to briefly share my own mental health experience. When I was 15 and a half, a close friend of mine died by suicide. I didn't know where to turn for support, and I didn't know how to prevent this from happening ever again. It was around that time that I also began to personally struggle with depression and suicidality, which continues today. I found out about Teen Line about 5 years ago, and as I was supporting a wide range of other youth mental health initiatives and started my own company, I fell in love with the mission, the ethos, and the work of the organization, and I'm in particular awe of the thoughtfulness and true compassion that these high school volunteers bring and show every day on the crisis line. It has been a great honor of mine to be the chair of this organization. And I'll close with this. In this moment in time, we need to build a more collaborative, connected, and equitable ecosystem to support young people with their mental health journeys. There are so many great people around the country doing tireless work, and there's an even bigger impact that we can have when working together. So through Didi Hirsch, we see that there are 3 key opportunities. 1, collaboration across crisis lines. Through 988, other youth lines, as well as with non-youth focused crisis lines, we have the ability to learn and build together a more cohesive safety net. 2, connections across the entire youth mental health ecosystem, from crisis to prevention to promotion in and out of school. If we think of a young person's mental health journey as a river, Teen Line and other crisis lines exist to build nets and rescue rafts for young people who find themselves in the rapids quickly approaching a waterfall. We need to build connections with the other organizations who are doing this work in the rapids, as well as those in calmer waters doing prevention and promotion work. And third, and most importantly, we need to ensure that equity is front and center in the present and future of our youth mental health. Because of marginalized identities, young people find themselves in the rapids of mental health quite often. Specificity in addressing young people's identities will be necessary to an effective, collaborative, connective, and equitable youth mental health system. We are too divided right now across the mental health sector for a wide variety of reasons, and whether it be nonprofits, the foundations, the for-profits, the government agencies, we need more collaboration and the sharing of best practices within and amongst these sectors. By centering the identities of those that are most marginalized, including but not limited to race and ethnicity, gender identity and expression, LGBTQ+, income and geography, we will be able to provide high quality, equitable healthcare for all young people. Thank you again to Lynn, Cheryl, Mike, Jonathan Schreiber, and the entire Teen Line and Didi Hirsch teams for enabling such an exciting next chapter that will benefit and support and save so many young people. And now I have the privilege to introduce a special partner. As Cheryl mentioned, the unwavering commitment of Cedars-Sinai has allowed Teen Line to operate, and most importantly, their resources has allowed us to help thousands of youth worldwide every year. Please help me welcome the VP of Community Engagement at Cedars-Sinai, a longtime supporter of Teen Line, and a truly incredible person, Jonathan Schreiber.
Sorry, I'm a little taller. Thank you all for being here today. I know that we are in the midst of a pandemic, but we are also in the midst of a mental health epidemic, and it is spreading across the United States in very large numbers, particularly fueled by COVID-19 and the changes that we all experience on a day in, day out basis. This is particularly true for teens in our community. And I really just want to ground this experience, this acquisition, if you will, of really the culmination of a partnership that has been in place for 20 years. Didi Hirsch has been providing 20 hours a day of services for folks who call on the Teen Line phone lines. And Teen Line has been providing very unique teen-to-teen experiences that really help de-escalate situations in a very unique way. Our experience in supporting Teen Line comes from the genesis of the program, where Drs. Leader and Lipton both actually worked at Cedars-Sinai. This program actually emerged from our own experience and our own programs. So it's natural that we would want to continue that support, not simply for the 42 years that it has been operating, but we recently upgraded a variety of sites. Of course, it was a little bit set aside because of the this pandemic thing. But the partnership will continue, and our partnership with Teen Line is unbelievably important to Cedars-Sinai as an institution, and our partnership with Didi Hirsch has continued to grow over the years and is also unbelievably valuable to us, not only in the prevention of suicide, but also in providing services and care to transitional age youth and to others focused on mental health crises in their own community. So we are thrilled to be part of this continued partnership, and anything we can do to continue to support this, we will absolutely move forward. And I really want to thank the spirit and the vision of everyone that has been involved in this process, from Andy and Mike to Lynn and Cheryl and all the other board members. This is a culmination of more than 10 years of conversations. So congratulations to you on reaching this momentous occasion. This is absolutely essential for the future of Los Angeles and for our youth. With that, I'd like to introduce why it's so important for our youth today, because I'd like to introduce Lily Cramon. She is a Teen Line volunteer who has been at Teen Line for 2 years. She participates in outreach programs for Teen Line and is a member of their social media team. Her passion for the program has led her to spread awareness about the organization, both at her school as well as through events and advertising. She has been supporting teens for what, about 500 hours? 500 hours. And that has shown Lily the impact a simple connection can make. And with that, I would like to welcome to the podium Lily Cramon.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the introduction. My name is Lily Cramon. I am 17, and I've been taking calls, texts, and emails with Teen Line for over 2 years now. When I was a freshman in high school, I began to notice more and more teens experiencing anxiety, loneliness, stress, and depression. And I soon became aware of how many teens around the country and around the world were experiencing mental health crisis. I am and was extremely grateful for the support system that I am so lucky to have. And I joined Teen Line so I could provide that same support and those same resources for other teens who don't know where to turn when they're in crisis. I think it is evident, as said before, that we are in a mental health crisis right now, and that crisis is centered around teens and kids. When the pandemic started, this crisis exploded as teens and kids felt confused and isolated and lonely, and it was even more crucial that us teen volunteers were there to help them when they needed. Because of the Teen Line staff's swift reaction to the initial 2020 lockdown, we were able to establish a system where we could continue to help teens and kids who wanted to reach out for help safely from our homes. It was extremely nerve-wracking at first to begin taking calls from my bedroom on my own, as I wasn't in the supportive and vibrant environment of the hotline room. But I soon learned throughout my time volunteering at Teen Line during COVID the power that a simple connection and conversation can have on a teen. Empathizing with, listening to, and connecting with a teen who has felt ignored and misunderstood and lonely for so long can truly do wonders. It has been incredible and so fulfilling to see a teen's mood and tone change at the end of the call compared to the beginning of the call. Even if it's a small change, if they called crying, panicking, or really depressed, even if it's a small change in tone, a little bit of laughter or a thank you, that truly means the world to me as a volunteer. I am ecstatic about this next step that Teen Line is taking with Didi Hirsch, because Teen Line has been able to reach so many teens in crisis, but there are still tons and tons of teens out there who need help and don't know enough about us. I think this partnership is going to do wonders, and I'm so excited to see the greater impact that we can make on teens experiencing a mental health crisis. And now I'd like to introduce our next Teen Line volunteer, Jonathan Gelfon. He started his Teen Line journey in 2019 and has since volunteered weekly as a Teen Line listener, answering calls, texts, and emails from youth in various mental health crises worldwide. In the over 400 hours that Jonathan has spent on the hotline, he has reaffirmed his desire to begin a career in the mental health field. He is pursuing his passion for mental health advocacy through documentary and PSA work, and he hopes to continue this in his future for educational and professional pursuits. So please help me in welcoming Jonathan. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Lily, for the warm welcome. My name is Jonathan Gelfond, and I volunteer at Teen Line since 2019. It is in those 3 years since that I've had the true privilege to answer calls, texts, and emails from teens across the country and world. When I first started Teen Line, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. How would it be working on a hotline, answering calls from my peers? But I can say after that it has truly been one of the greatest experiences of my life to be able to volunteer weekly and help teens and my fellow peers. Especially during COVID, a lot of the outlets that teens were used to, from school to various programs, were shut down. And so while our work at Teen Line was extremely important before then, that mission became so much stronger during COVID. For teens who didn't know where to turn, we were that place that they could go to. They could talk to another teen. And oftentimes that aspect of relatability and authenticity is so important, especially when you're reaching out for help, which can be such a challenge for some people, especially if they haven't received that support before. In my time working on the hotline, I've been able to hear stories of pain and resilience, stories of trauma, but also perseverance. And so that is why I think the work that we do is so incredibly important, why I'm also so excited that Teen Line has partnered with Didi Hirsch for this acquisition. I recently met a mom who lost their son to suicide, and it is in that conversation with her where she shared just how important it would be for her son to know about Teen Line as a resource. And that's why I think this partnership is so exciting. We are going to be able to provide more resources, increase outreach, and really be able to reach more teens than we were before. And so it is my honor to continue volunteering at Teen Line. It is something I am incredibly passionate about. And I thank Didi Hirsch and all of the staff, fellow teens at Teen Line, and Cheryl for all of their support over the years. So thank you so much, everyone, and I have the honor to welcome back Didi Hirsch CEO, Lynn Morris.
Oh my gosh, I hope you are all as inspired as I am after listening to our teen listeners. So before I open it up for questions today, I just wanted to thank a couple of staff that helped coordinate today's press conference. So our communications team, our development team at Didi Hirsch. I also want to recognize our executive and senior leadership at the Suicide Prevention Center who are here today, Sherry Simwelski, Carolyn Levitan. And also want to thank Disrupt, who is our media relations team who helped coordinate this as well. So thank you all for making today possible and sharing this wonderful celebration that we have today. So I'm going to open it up for questions if anybody has them. And I may pull up Cheryl or others to help me with this part, but if there are any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
My name's Robert. I work at KBCC, the public radio station in town. I was just wondering, with this acquisition, what are the first things, like the concrete things you think are going to happen? Because Teen Line already seems like it's doing such great work. Is it bigger facilities, training more volunteers? What are the first things that are going to happen?
Yeah, so the question was, what are some of the first things that are going to happen with this acquisition of Teen Line as part of Didi Hirsch? And it's a great question because you're right, both organizations are already doing really incredible work. But the idea is that we are going to partner more together moving forward. So we will be increasing our trainings, training more teens, as Cheryl had mentioned. We'll be training more folks in our Suicide Prevention Center as well, and then having them integrate our services. So there are times where already we use a teen as part of our training class, training our adult counselors on the line. Really get a sense of feeling what a teen feels and how to talk to a teen. So we'll be doing more of that. We'll be expanding services into other areas in Los Angeles and reaching out to diverse communities in that way. So those are some of the first things that we're going to do in this partnership, and look forward to a lot more as we go along. Yeah, thank you. Other questions?
I guess I have one more. How does that play into 988?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for those of you who are aware, 988 is the 3-digit number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So it's not a new service, it's a new number that makes it easier for people to access in times of crisis. Didi Hirsch has operated the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline here in Southern California and across the state with 12 other crisis centers for decades. So the good news is we've been handling all kinds of calls related to mental health, substance use, and suicidal crises already. 988 is going to make it easier for people to call in. They won't have to remember a 10-digit number. It'll be easier for them to punch in 988, and they'll get direct service from Didi Hirsch suicide prevention counselors. The Teen Line is not part of 988 at this moment, but I think that's an area to explore moving forward. I'm looking at Cheryl. Because you have to be a member of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline to take 988 calls. And what that means is you have to be accredited, you have to be trained a certain way. There's lots of requirements that go into that because we want to make sure that people in crisis who are calling in get the best quality care possible. So I think in the future we'll be looking towards that and adding in Teen Line into the 988 network. But right now it's just Didi Hirsch answering those calls. Yeah, thank you for your questions. Appreciate it. Any others? Yeah. All right, well, as we close today, I just want to thank you so much for being here today. And also want to make sure, you kind of brought up already, but to remind people that 988 is launching officially on Saturday, July 16th. So as of Saturday, you will be able to dial 988 and get somebody quickly who can help if you are in a mental health crisis, substance use crisis, or suicidal crisis. But I also want to remind people that this number is also for people who are concerned about someone who is at risk of suicide or a mental health crisis. So if you know someone who's in crisis and you don't know what to say, you don't know how to help, call 988 and we'll help you. I also want to give a reminder that to engage our younger generations on 988, self-care is for everyone is collaborating with Didi Hirsch with a unique garment collection, and the proceeds are going to be donated to the organization. So we're trying to get the word out about 988, and as I mentioned before, almost half our callers on our crisis line and chats and texts are teens and young adults. So we'll be making that official announcement coming soon. Thank you all for being here today. We're looking forward to a bright future. Thank you.